Hi guys, welcome to For Those Who Code. In this video, we'll be learning how we can create our own custom hooks with React. We'll get into what hooks are, how it is useful to us, and why we need them after all. For reference, you can also find the link to the GitHub repository down below as well. So let's get started. Well, first of all, components. Components are the building blocks of our application. In reference to the current version of React 16.8.0, we have a number of ways how we can write our components. First one is class-based component, which is also called stateful component, and second one is functional component. Inside class-based component, we have the access to the lifecycle methods like component did mount, component did update, component will update, and so on. We can't use any of these inside functional components. Previously, functional components can't use their own state and don't have any access to lifecycle methods. Now, with React hooks, we have the access to the state inside functional component. React hooks simply are special functions to extend the capabilities of functional components and give them the possibility to have lifecycle events and manage state. Example of most common hooks we have are useEffect, useState, and useContext, to name just a few. useState is a state hook used for declaring the state inside our components. useEffect is a side effect hook which is used for data fetching, manually changing the DOM, and many more. useContext, which is useContext, which needs to be used in conjugation with React.js Context API. When the React context provider updates, this hook will trigger and render with the latest context value. So why do we need hooks? Well, when we use hooks inside our application, well, the code becomes less and it's more cleaner and easy to read as well. The hierarchy and stateful is properly maintained. Class-based components actually are more complex, so it's better to go with the hooks. Ultimately, we have the better app performance, and I also refer to go to the article we have, which is entitled 45% faster React functional components now, which is this one, which is a great resource to have read as well. So, what are custom hooks? A custom hook is a JavaScript function with a unique naming convention that requires the function name to start with use and also have the ability to create other hooks. So now let's go ahead and create some basic hook ourselves. So before we go, I would like to share you another resource that is really helpful to make React hooks, which is usehooks.com. Well, we have already pre-made hooks inside usehooks.com and the recipes are ready for you to cook. Already scaffold my application with create React app and it's serving in port 3000. And let's go ahead and create our first custom hook. For that one, I'll create a constant and name it useCounter. So we'll be creating some kind of counter which takes birth, death, and increment as a parameter. And then when we click on a button, then we would see if it's more than 100, we would send them the alert of you can't leave more than 100. If it's less than 100, then they can increase up to 100. So we would call this something like how many years do you want to live? So we'll ask them question and then we will also add count, which stores the number of click that they clicked, and set count. which will update the value as per the click as well. And we will make the use of use state hook, and the custom hooks needs to be started with the keyword use, and the custom hooks can access to other hooks as well, as we have already discussed, I guess. And then inside here, what we can also do is we can add in another constant and call it handle count. Well, what handle count does is it would return our count and handle count as well. So if our count is strictly is equal to die, then we would send them a simple alert of you can't live more than 100 years. And then if it's not, and we will also need to return set count and pass down the birth at first. And if it's not, we will return set count with increment value. Well, ultimately we can return count and handle count. And let's also create another constant which stores our count and handle count, and we'll make the use of custom hooks right here, which is called use counter, and pass down the 3 arguments that we can pass, which is 0, 100 and 5. Well, 0 is the birth, 100 is death, and then I think this should be death, and 5 is the increment value. I think it's pretty much fine for now. And now let's go ahead and create our I want to live count years, and then we'll also add a button because we need to call our handle count as well. So inside here we'll add click me for now, and we'll also add an on-click handler which invokes handle count. The use state is not defined. Yeah, I think we need to we forgot to actually import use state. Yeah, I think we are pretty much okay now. Let's go ahead and click. We have the increment of 5, which is this parameter right here, and if we go and exceed more than 100, it should throw an error. Yeah, and it should throw an error. And then if count is equal to death, then we set the count to the birth, which is 0 right here, right? So it would set the count value to 0, which is the birth. So this line does the same. So if we just start with okay, then it resets the value to 0. I think we have pretty much created our basic custom hook right now. Let's move ahead and like tweak it out and create a little bit more tricky custom hook. Now for our second example, we will create custom hook and name it use fetch. So what use fetch does is, let's create a constant and name it use fetch. Well, what use fetch does is it fetches the data from external API endpoint. And we will add our URL as parameter here and create another constant and where we will store the response and set response as well, and use state and initially pass the value of null. So now create another constant where we'll also store the error if occurred and set error, and we will also make the use of use state hook. We can like copy this out and paste that in, and inside here we can make the use of another hook which is called use effect hook, and create another constant and name it fetch data, which is synchronous function, and we will make the use of async await here, and we will add a try block for now, and then inside the try block we will create an await and make the use of fetch, which is built-in JavaScript method for us, and create a constant and name it JSON, where we will await for our response.json data that we get as well. So now ultimately we can add set response to the data we received as well. So now this was the try block, and for the catch block what we can do here is we can catch the error, and then we can also set error that we predefined that we defined, and then pass down error error over here. So ultimately after these, then we can now invoke the fetch data and also return response and error from here. Use state is not defined, use state is not defined, use state, use which is assigned but not used. Okay, now what we can also do is we can also go inside our main app and then write down our endpoint, which we already created up here with our custom hook, and which takes the parameter of let's write response and use fetch, and inside here we can add template literals that we have, and write down, I think for now we will use some open source API endpoints, and we can paste it like here. So we have used JSON placeholder which takes down some of the photos from there. Now let's also create another constant where we can name it data fetched, and which would be response dot response, and let's print it out first. Yeah, in the console we can see that we have successfully received our data, but we can see here is it's increasing the, it's calling this particular function every time. So the solution for that one would be we need to like add empty array over here in our use effect so that it only invokes just once. And then for now we can also go and so this would be the case where we don't have any data, which will show a loading screen. And then if we don't have any data, and then return where we can access to the data fetched. And then as the data fetch is quite a lot, we will just want an example. So we will like slice it to just to receive 10 items for now. And then we can also pass down our data, map it down. We can also add a key. So key would be an unique identifier. So we don't need a color basis. Data.id, and inside here we can access our data, which is data.title, and then we can also make the use of the image that we receive, image, and image with the source, and where the source would be data.url. And then for now we can leave the alt as well. So use effect has a missing dependency URL. Use effect has a missing dependency URL. Well, I think it's generated by awesomeness. I think yeah, by placing like disable awesomeness to this particular line, we can temporarily solve that issue. And as we can see in our browser, we have already fetched the data that we need from our free API endpoint, and making the use of React custom hooks named useFetch. So guys, I hope you got some initial ideas on making your own custom hooks in React. Thank you so much for watching my videos. If you guys want to learn about code, design, and anything more, please like, share, and subscribe with a click down below. I'll try to make more better videos like this. See you in the next one, guys.